true? Did you have a run-in with Mr. Tall, Dark, and Stinky one night? Well, I'm a little miffed. Why haven't you told me about it? Go on, get busy. Write that email out and send it to me at contact@buckeyebigfoot.com. I can't wait to read it. Hey there, everyone. I'm glad you could make it. Now listen, tonight I have a story for you that, well, I can't say it was an email because it wasn't an email. It came as a printed letter to my P.O. box. It's from a woman named Darlene, and she's giving us a memory about how she tried to befriend some Bigfoots. Well, she was worried that it would sound too childlike, but personally, I think it's just right. So are you ready? Got your snackage? Are you packed up and ready for tonight's journey into Sasquatch Valley? Of course you are. Me too. Let's go. Hello, I'm Darlene from Minnesota. In the 80s, I lived in the northern part of the state near several beautiful lakes and pine forests. I owned a 2-bedroom, secluded, remodeled, 100-year-old log cabin. On free days, I would go exploring in the woods across the meadow. I enjoyed looking for mushrooms, ferns, and wildflowers. Sometimes I'd go fishing in the nearby lake. In the evenings, I was sometimes lucky enough to see the northern lights light up the dark sky. I had a small vegetable garden to give me some fresh things to eat when it grew later in the summer. When I was outside in the evenings, I sat in my rocker on my wraparound porch, swatting mosquitoes while the breeze whistled to the pines and willows. It sounded like the branches were talking to each other. I didn't have any nearby human neighbors, but enjoyed the wildlife that abounded in the area. A family of black bears, headed by Mama Bear with her cubs, lived in the woods behind my property. She often came by at night to scratch the tree bark to show this was her territory. In the distance, dogs could sense her movement, and they would soon sound an alarm, but it didn't seem to bother her. Her cub might make little grunts while they looked for insects in the rotting wood. Sometimes a Boy Scout troop would camp in the woods near the lake and maybe fish and run around and play games. They would put up their green tents and get settled with their friends. Then the leader would give them instructions on behavior and hints on the plan for the time there, their chores and activities. He would make sure the tents were up correctly and stored items inside. Then the important items were next. 1. Make sure the tents were situated off the path to the lake. The reason for that was that the bear family often used to walk by at night to go by the lake to drink or to catch fish. Mama Bear would grunt on the way if they were too close, especially if she had cubs with her. 2. The next item they had to do was take the ropes they were supplied with and hoist their backpacks with food high up in a suspended branch in a tree to keep the things safe from animals. In the evening, they enjoyed making a campfire and making s'mores. I found out sometime later they claimed to hear and see monsters in the woods with orange eyes watching them. That scared them, of course, but the leader usually just reassured them that nothing was out there but Mama Bear and maybe coyotes. During the summer months, I often wanted to check out the new flowers, since I had last hiked through the forest. I usually brought a flashlight to look into the corners of brush, maybe something to take some pictures, and a knife or scissors to cut and keep my new finds to take back to the cabin. Because I knew Mama lived there, I was always looking at my surroundings, so I often hummed a song to make her aware that I was there. I'd hear bird songs, chattering squirrels, or maybe see a beautiful mama deer and her spotted brown fawn quietly nibbling on the grass. I'd try to remain quiet to keep from startling her, but if she saw me, her tail would go up and they would skirt away quickly. One day in July, as I entered the sunlit clearing, the sounds that I always heard were gone. It was dead quiet. No birds, squirrels, or anything. The hair on the back of my neck started to stand up and forced me to be alert to change. There seemed to be a mist in the air, and a dreadful smell that I hadn't smelled before. Was Mama nearby? Was she in trouble or something? I looked around, but I didn't see her or a cub. I cautiously continued down the path that I usually took, looking for any hollowed areas that she might have a den nearby. Nothing. But I heard a big branch break. Okay, what caused that? As I walked, I heard another branch break, and I heard a loud howling sound, like a coyote or something. Maybe she was nearby. Should I turn around and leave? Or was I being overcautious? So I walked on and observed tracks on the sandy path that showed where animals had been recently. It looked like Mama's tracks were there, but there were large tracks that were much larger. Some flowers were trampled, and those tracks were shaped differently. I heard another growl to my left through the brush. Oh, there she is. She was looking at something in her paw, maybe nuts for her cub or worms or something. There was a freshly broken branch near her. She looked up, startled, and then she stared at me. Then she stood up. In shock, I realized it wasn't Mama. I shined my flashlight on it. I can only describe it as something huge, like 7 to 8 feet tall, with long, brown, shaggy hair and a football-shaped head. It appeared to have orange, glowing, scary eyes, too. The creature dropped what it had in hand. Then it looked at me, turned away, and like a shadow moved out of the thicket. What should I do? It wasn't chasing me. Should I turn back home? But after thinking briefly, I decided to follow it if I could. Maybe it had seen me often and realized I was nothing to fear. I could hear it making a large noise going through the brush away from me. I again noticed the strange odor that I noticed when I got here today. It must be from that creature. Should I call it Bigfoot? I don't know, since I hadn't seen one or knew anyone who had. Would it eat rotten things? Does that account for the smell? I was curious about where it had come from, or if it now lived near here, too. It appeared to be heading for the lake. I saw it turn toward me, and it saw I was following behind. I heard another scream that seemed to echo in the trees, and shortly another sound seemed to be answering from a distance. Could there be others here, too? Why wasn't the Bigfoot chasing me off? As I neared the shore, there was a commotion across the lake. I could see another big, dark shape nearing the shore. There seemed to be a smaller one, like a child along with that one, bouncing to the water. They seemed to be huddling in the weeds. I heard a huge splash. The Bigfoot jumped in the water and swam quickly toward the other shore to his family. I watched in awe as they met at the shore. He looked back at me again, and they all disappeared into the woods. As the summer wore on, I began to consider the idea of making friends with the Bigfoot family if I could. I wondered what Mama Bear's family feels about sharing the woods and food sources with this new family. Would they fight? I could put out some food at a couple locations for them. So I put together 2 piles of apples, melons, lettuce, cabbage, and some nuts. I put one pile near the clearing by the edge of the forest nearest my cabin. The other pile I put near the shore, where I saw them leave that day. A couple days later, I returned to see what happened to the food. Both piles of food were gone. But the pile at the shore, it had a small pile of rocks and flower petals where the food had been. Why was that? Could they think like people enough to consider that as payment for the food? Now, Mama's pile was just gone. Another day, I took those stones and made a little pile by the shore in a different place. I continued walking as usual. But when I later checked the rocks, they had been moved to a different place, but the same arrangement. How did they do that? Were they communicating with me? Soon I came back with apples in both locations. When I returned another day, the clearing pile was gone, but there were several pine cones by the shore, all lined up in a row. The next day, I added 2 more pine cones a little further along to see if they would move them. When I checked, they had moved the piles together. I now believed that Big Feet could have deductive thinking patterns. That was amazing. One day in September, I was sitting by the shore, eating my lunch and looking for loons. I noticed the weeds by the shore were moving a bit. Were they watching? I tried to see if I could see a head or fur in the browning fall weeds. I threw a small stone in the water. I made a small sign in the air, like a motion to come to me. Soon a head appeared in the weeds, and a small Bigfoot peeked out. I think it was curious about what I was doing. I threw another stone into the water. The little guy, who wasn't really little, picked up another small rock and threw it in too. I laughed, but he got scared and ducked down. I threw another one. He popped up, made a grunt, and threw one too. We were having a game. I was finished with my lunch. I left another apple and went home. I waited a few days and then walked my usual trail. I kept my eye toward the shore, but I didn't see any movement. I heard a grunt and a branch crack, and maybe some knocking noises, but no animals showed up. By now, winter was approaching. My walk ceased because I go to the Twin Cities in the winter. But before I left, I made 2 large piles of goodies in each section with extra cabbage and apples. Maybe they hibernate like Mama. I don't know. Maybe in the spring they will have moved on and I won't see them again. But I will always remember my summer friends and smile to myself. Signed, Darlene. Well, Darlene, if there's more to your story about when you went back the next year and what happened, please, we would love to hear it. Personally, I liked your story. I didn't think it was childish at all. It was a sweet, lovely memory. All right. Now listen, folks, don't forget that this Friday, April 11th, I will be doing a live stream, and I will be bringing to you someone who's going to help scratch your itch when you need more Bigfoot stories. And like I've said, it seems we always need more Bigfoot stories. There's never enough. So be sure to be on the watch for that. I'll probably set something up a day or 2 ahead for like a waiting room. I think it will be at 7 p.m., but I have to talk to that other person first just to be sure. But anyway, keep your eye out. And if you have any questions for me, please email them to me and I'll be happy to answer them for you. All right, everyone, I think that's it for tonight. Thank you for staying with me on the journey down into Sasquatch Valley. It's always better with your company. Until we meet up again in just a few days, I really need you to remember that absence of proof is not proof of absence. Thank you so much for listening. You guys really are the best.